Welcome to RuralStrong, where we talk real challenges and bold solutions in rural economic development. I'm your host, Joe Barker. Let's get into it. Welcome, everyone, to RuralStrong. We're coming to you today from the podcast studio in lovely Jackson, Tennessee, and we have two distinguished guests with us today. We've actually got two people with us today who are just so involved with what our counties are able to do, what our cities are able to do, and really the University of Tennessee is the entity that oversees all this. And I can tell you, as a former city and county mayor, I can't tell you how many times I contacted their organization for their advice, their technical services. And so I want to welcome today Dr. Byrd, who is the UT Vice President of Public Service since January of 2016, and Margaret Norris, who is the Executive Director of the Municipal Technical Advisory Service. We'll be referring to that as MTAS from now on, since, 2017. And welcome to RuralStrong.
Thank you, Joe. It's a privilege to be here with you today.
Well, I've been excited about this because I know your expertise, your knowledge, and your experience in working with rural communities. And I know our rural communities just really couldn't succeed without your organization. So I guess my first question is going to go to Dr. Byrd. Dr. Byrd, can you sort of provide our listening audience with an overview of the UT Institute of Public Service and its mission?
Sure. And I guess to give some context, I'll give an analogy. You know, I think we could take all the knowledge in the world and stick it in a library somewhere, maybe in Knoxville, Tennessee, and it's totally worthless if that knowledge and that information doesn't get put into practice and to use. So our whole job is to take the knowledge base and research base we have through the land-grant university at the University of Tennessee and take that knowledge and put it to work solving problems and issues that people have in everyday life. And in particular, in this case, in public service, as folks have issues in serving communities and understanding laws and responsibilities and all those kinds of things through MTAS and CTAS. We're very much involved in that knowledge transfer and technical support through those agencies. But at the Institute for Public Service, we also have several agencies that work with state government officials and with businesses and industry and with law enforcement professionals. We have a language center that does instruction, translation, interpreting, and English as a second language. And we have a program called SMART that works with drug use, misuse, and addiction problems and helps local governments help to solve that sticky problem that we have in our nation, but especially in our state. So we have the privilege of being able to work with folks that serve all of Tennessee in so many different ways, and the transfer of knowledge and resources that we have that we can transfer to them and help them with as they work and serve throughout our state.
And we know you work with both counties and cities, and since Margaret's with us today, we're going to primarily focus on the city side of it. So, Margaret, tell us a little bit about your role at MTAS.
Oh, thanks, Joe. So thank you for the invitation to be here. I love to talk about MTAS. So
great to have you with us.
This is wonderful. So there are 345 incorporated municipalities in the state, and we work with each and every one of them. And my role is to support the team that's doing the work that's helping the cities, that is then in turn helping their communities.
Well, then how... You talk about the team, so tell us a little bit about the team and some of the initiatives you're involved with MTAS.
Okay, so organizationally, we're structured into 6 teams. We have the municipal management team, the finance and accounting team, the research team, the legal and codes team, the research and information center team, and then we have and I'm missing one.
That's all right. That's all right. I call it a senior moment, but you're not a senior, so that's...
You're too kind. So each one of the teams has their specialty area, and they work with the cities to try and help them with whatever it is that they might need. So our legislative mandate was established in 1949, and it lists very specific items that we are mandated to do. But the last phrase, any and all matters related to municipal government. So that's what we do.
Well, I can tell you from experience, there's lots of any and all matters with municipal governments and county governments that I know you have to get involved with. And I want both of you to weigh in on this. How does the Institute engage with local communities?
Well, all of our agencies are engaged in being out in the community. We call it boots on the ground. So that's one of the key things that I guess makes us different from some other states, in that we have field staff that go out and visit and work directly with folks where they are. In other words, they're not doing it over the phone or a Zoom call or something like that. They're out there in communities and working. And it's especially important that we're there because we've been talking about MTAS and mentioned CTAS. A lot of folks that enter government service are not trained to do government service. And so they have to learn that somewhere, and particularly when we're talking about city and county government, one of our jobs is to help them learn what they need to do to be able to serve communities in whatever role they come in. In MTAS, we have city managers in a lot of places where they actually went to school and learned how to run government. We don't have that comparison piece in county government in Tennessee. And so every election in Tennessee, with county government elections, we generally turn over 45% of our local officials. And so in both agencies and in the other work we do, there's a constant turnover of folks that need education and training and assistance, and we're here to serve them. We're here to answer those questions. We're here to teach them the things they need to know and to be able to serve the public in the ways that they're charged to do.
And Margaret, you mentioned there's over 300 cities in the state of Tennessee, and Dr. Byrd mentioned city managers. And I know in West Tennessee, we don't have as many city manager types of government as they do in Middle and East Tennessee. Do you know offhand how many city manager forms of government we have in the state?
It's roughly a third.
Roughly a third. Well, that's more than I thought. You know, I'm from a small community, Savannah, in rural West Tennessee, and we had a city manager form of government, and that's what I grew up learning the role of public service. But it is, I think, as you mentioned, Dr. Byrd, these folks actually go to school and have to pass some courses to be able to do this.
Yes.
Where a mayor does not have to pass any courses other than, what's the requirements to be a mayor in the state of Tennessee?
Being a resident and 18 years old.
There's lots of folks in Tennessee that meet that requirement.
For county government, you have to be 21 years old and get elected. So then there comes a moment when you realize that, oh no, I'm elected, I celebrated that victory, but now I got to run government. And not many people come in knowing how to do that off the bat. So they apply the business principles they know or whatever management kind of roles that they've been involved in. Which helps, but there's a lot more to it, as you know.
You know, we're talking about rural communities, and a whole lot of Tennessee is rural. When both of y'all look at our rural communities in Tennessee, what do y'all see as some of the greatest challenges that they face today?
I would say workforce. Cities right now are struggling with finding qualified police. It's public safety, police and fire. Police officers and firefighters are hard to come by today.
And does MTAS help with that process?
We do.
Okay, well, that's good. Dr. Byrd, what do you see as the most significant challenges?
I would agree with Margaret that workforce is probably the biggest one, but we're in an age where technology is changing every day. And so I know a lot of places across our state are trying to figure out what AI is, for instance, and what does that mean to us in local government? How do we use it? How do we keep the bad things that might come with it from being an issue for us? So that's certainly another area that is important. Another one I'll mention is Tennessee is one of the fastest growing states in our country. I saw something yesterday that says this growth is likely to continue for at least 45 years. That's hard to think about and hard to imagine, but if we're not thinking about it today, I can tell you we're not going to be prepared for it tomorrow. So how do we grow in a way in our state that would be classified as smart growth? We don't want to quit growing, at least most of us don't, I think, because that growth brings so many of the benefits that we want in our state. But how do we do that in a way that preserves the culture that we like and that provides the lifestyle for folks in our state that is important to them, and the kind of rural character that we have that makes it a special place? So I think we're going to really have some challenges in the future and growing challenges. And how do we grow in a way that is meaningful to us and that preserves the kind of place we want to work and live in each and every day?
And I'll tack on to that, Joe, if you don't mind, is that infrastructure is a huge challenge. We've got cities that have been around for 100+ years with original infrastructure in the ground, and it's hard when it's not something you can see and touch and feel, but you count on that water turning on every time you touch the faucet. So to prepare for that growth, you've got to have the infrastructure to support it, and infrastructure is not cheap.
And both of you have brought this up. How would you advise a community to, as they move forward, wanting to preserve the quality of life that they've known for the last 30 years, and at the same time meet the challenges of this growing population? What's some of the advice you could give those communities?
I would say that one of them is providing one of the things local government does, and that's the structure around how we do that. We were talking earlier at lunch about zoning and how that's a bad word to some folks. They don't want to have those kinds of restrictions, but one thing that zoning does is to help plan where your growth is going to be, what kind of growth can happen there. And recently we had a group working and we're converting 9.8 acres an hour in Tennessee from farmland to some other use. 9.8 acres an hour. And a lot of times developers like that flat land that's probably open and cleared, and they can do almost anything with it. And but that's our top farmland in the state. So we don't want to convert all of our Class 1 and 2 farmland to subdivisions and manufacturing sites. But that's sometimes the first place folks go. So we've got to think about how do we make sure that as we do grow, we're doing it in a way that we're not taking some of our best land and putting it in places that, once you pave something or put a house or a building on it, it's hard to convert it back to something else. So we've got to think about how we grow and where we want to grow. Make sure that we're utilizing our land resources where their greatest value is, perhaps.
And Joe, my advice would be strategic planning. Have those discussions. Where do you think your community is going? What are the challenges? What are the opportunities? We talk about a SWOT analysis, that's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Identify what those are and then plan for that. And that's also involving getting everybody on the same page. And once you're there, you can take off and go. You can go great places.
Well, Margaret, I'm in the choir on asset-based strategic planning because all of our communities have assets, and they need to identify those assets, plan around those assets, and no matter how small or large they are, if they focus on that, would you agree that they can have some measure of success?
Yes.
Well, that's right. personally, we spend a lot of time thinking about who we are and who we want to be and how do we get from here to there. Well, that same principle is very true in communities. Who are we as a community? What do we need? Where do we want to go? What do we want to be together? And it takes bringing people together and a good plan and some of those things to be able to make that happen.
Dr. Byrd, talk a little bit about a new initiative. You talked about planning, and I know that there was money appropriated in the Tennessee State Legislature this time to establish a Center for Local Planning under UTIPS. Tell our folks exactly what that is.
It's an exciting time for us. It's not often you get to create a new agency pretty much from scratch. But I mentioned there was a group that was looking at land loss in Tennessee and where that was happening, how it was happening, and farmland being converted to other purposes. And out of that group that involved a lot of folks across our state, one of the recommendations they had was to establish somebody that was thinking statewide about local planning and how we do that. As a lot of people know, we had a group at the state level in the Tennessee Economic and Community Development Department that did that for a time statewide, and it was dissolved during the Haslam administration. And folks like our development districts picked up a lot of that work across the state. Cities and counties that could afford to hire somebody would pick up somebody doing development. But we have some pockets across the state that need more help. We found that there was not a one source stop to get technical assistance and answer questions all the time when folks had them, and so that's a role I think this group will be able to do. There was also money in that to establish a landowner education program across the state in the Institute of Agriculture, and they're going to be doing workshops with landowners to help them increase their profitability, but also know what they can do within that label of what is farming and what is an agricultural enterprise, and are there other ways that they can look for ways to utilize their land resources to increase their income so they can potentially stay in a farming enterprise. So it's a multifaceted approach that the group put together. There was also an incentive program to keep farms in farming if folks wanted to engage in that. But we had people involved from city government, county government, state government, Department of Ag, Institute of Ag, Farm Bureau, and other folks that were trying to look at this problem that there's not one good, easy answer to, but thinking about what can we do to help better utilize our land resources as they're becoming more and more scarce.
And Margaret, how do you see MTAS? What do you see that MTAS has a role in this new Center for Local Planning?
Oh, yes. Supportive role. We do answer planning and zoning questions already, and when those come in, we will gladly refer them to the appropriate person at the new agency.
Sure. Well, many of our municipalities already have local planning contracts, and as Dr. Byrd said, most of the time it's with their local development district. But I guess we've got several of our smaller communities that primarily due to the financial constraints that do not have a local planning person that they can contact to do the things that need to be done.
Right.
Well, I think one of the things that made this make sense to the group that was looking at it is that with CTAS and MTAS being a part of the Institute for Public Service, we do have a little bit of a unique arrangement there where we can utilize those agencies within the Institute to help bring cities and counties together around the table, hopefully to do some long-term planning maybe that they haven't thought about. And we can offer some encouragement and maybe some incentive at times to bring people together, talk through some of these things where there might be a lot of different viewpoints on the way to achieve what folks want.
All right. Now, this is a thought-provoking statement here. You know, when I was a city mayor, I served on the Tennessee Municipal League Board. And when I was a county mayor, I served on the Tennessee County Services Board. And I would tell people when I was a member of the Municipal League Board, the main thing we did was sit around and talk about how sorry the counties were. And then when I got on the County Services Board, the main thing we did was sit around and talk about how sorry the cities were. And to me, one of the greatest challenges we have is to bring that collaboration together between cities and counties. And I'd like both of your thoughts on that because, I was on a webinar this morning, and we were talking about getting local elected officials to work together. And in fact, one of the questions for me was, if money was not an obstacle and you were a county mayor, what would you do with that money? And I said, well, there's lots of things you can do with it. But I said, collaboration is something you can't buy. You cannot buy that. So let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, why do you think that cities and counties sometimes, not all the time, have trouble getting together for the good of the community? And do you have any thoughts of, man, how do we address this?
Oh, high school football.
Well, that's been talked about a lot.
I worked as a city manager in a community, and the high school football teams were rival teams, and it was the city versus the county high school team. So that's part of it. I joke about that, but I absolutely see the benefit in regional planning, and I can't believe that any elected official wouldn't want what's best for the region. The region does well, whether it be the city or the county, they're going to do well, and they're going to benefit from that. So I think if you can find the common grounds and then build on that gets towards that collaboration. But too often you see the obstacles rather than the opportunities.
Great. Dr. Byrd?
Well, I might take it even farther. I work with a lot of groups, and I hear state officials talk about federal overreach, and then I hear local government officials talking about state overreach. The bottom line is all of these public servants ran for office or they were hired to serve people. And we all know intellectually that when all levels of government work together, things work, and it makes a difference for people. And we can look around and we can see all kinds of collaborations. One right up the road that had federal involvement, state involvement, local government involvement, and a lot of great things happening. And when we work together, we can get some things done. At the same time, there are times that cities and counties have different perspectives and different interests. You can't force that collaboration that you talked about. And I think there are times we need to have healthy debate. I tell our directors of CTAS and MTAS, and Margaret's here, that, I want them to be 100% an advocate for city or county government, whichever one they represent. That means at times they might be working at odds to one another. And so I think over time, after we go through all the checks and balances that are there, we eventually work to the solution that is achievable and might be, hopefully, is best. But being able to bring people together around common issues and reach a common goal is very rewarding in this work, but it's one of the most challenging things we do sometimes.
And I've often thought that the tax structure, the revenue structure that we have in Tennessee, where we're a sales tax-based economy, and when you look at city and county governments in Tennessee, it's a situs-based tax that if you buy an item in the city, they get that sales tax. If it's outside a municipality, the county gets that tax. And we all know that in most counties, the bulk of the commerce is in a municipality, so they've got the bulk of the sales tax coming in, and then the counties are responsible for things like education and various other things. So I've often thought that is the root of it is the funding sources and where they come from. And I've never seen a major project in a rural community that would not happen if it had not been for a cooperative effort between cities and counties. Would you agree?
That's exactly right. We know that when there's competition for scarce resources, in this case, tax base, and I hear it from both sides. We need this for that, and the way we distribute these funds isn't equitable, or it's whatever it is. And sometimes folks look at the same thing and they see it differently, but that's very true. In communities where folks have found a way to work together, we see some really great things happening. And we have some great and shining examples of that across our state. And almost always it's where the county mayors and city mayors enjoy being together. They work together, they plan together, and it makes a huge difference for everyone, both city and county, when that happens. And we see some really glaring examples across the state where mayors don't talk and won't talk. And I used to follow this cowboy poet named Baxter Black, and he said, when the elk battle in the marsh, it's the bullfrog who pays. And
I like that.
Sometimes we forget who we're here to work for, and there are times we need to refocus on why we did this in the first place, and it makes a difference when we work together.
Well, I've told people before, when I was a city mayor, I always felt like my job in relationship with the county mayor was that, the county mayor and myself, we didn't have to go out to dinner at night, and we didn't have to go to the movies together, and we certainly didn't have to take vacations together. But from 8 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the afternoon, the people that elected both of us expect us to work together. And that seems to be a difficult concept to get across, but it is true, and I appreciate y'all recognizing that fact that, when communities work together, great things happen.
Yes, and I gave extreme examples. I think most of the time it's that city folks are really focused on city things. County folks are focused on county things, and we call that silo mentality. Sometimes we don't look outside of the things that are right in front of us day to day to see the places where we could bring other people to the table and have a greater impact. And that's a challenge for any of us, wherever it is that we work. The more partners that we have in the work that we do, the better the outcomes are in almost every case. So we need to encourage that kind of thinking.
Give our listeners an example maybe of where a city and a county work together for the good of the community, and maybe what happens when that dynamic comes together. Can you give an example of somewhere in Tennessee where people can say, man, that was good work?
Okay. First thing I can think of, because I'm in East Tennessee, is an East Tennessee community, but
we'll forgive you for that. Go ahead.
Blount County, with all the cities in Blount County and the cities of Alcoa and Maryville, are exceedingly wonderfully cooperative. They have a shared parks department. They share their resources, and they work very closely with the county on providing the best services to their citizens, to their residents, to the community.
And for any of our folks that's ever been in Blount County, a very progressive community, their city and county. It's a great example. Dr. Byrd?
One that I think about in mid-state, and that's Williamson County, where they do joint planning on things. They've been forced to because they've had such rapid growth there, but they have a lot of things where the cities and the county government work together on projects. They've done some wonderful things on preserving history that have been joint city and county projects. They've done some renovations there that have been jointly funded through city and county funds. They do a great job of bringing in grant funding that benefits both city and county government. So there are so many ways that you can see those things working. They've had to build schools fast and hard because of all the influx of population there, and they have worked jointly together on doing some of those things. So a lot of neat things happening there from a number of different perspectives of local government service that they chose to cooperate on rather than compete on, and it's been a benefit to the residents there. But here in West Tennessee, Blue Oval City, again, would not have happened without the cooperation of county and city government there, along with state government. And, we see progress when folks are pulling the same direction. And when somebody's asleep at the wheel, we see it's more of a challenge to continue to move forward in the direction that we want.
Well, there is that common thread that runs through successful communities, and it's that collaboration that happens. Let me ask you this. Does UTIPS play a role in trying to influence public policy and decision-making? Is that something that you get involved with at all?
I would say not directly, but we do try to present best practice where we know, we look around at other states and things that they do that have been of benefit, and we don't propose policy directly, but we do want folks to be informed that do make that policy. So we try to make sure they know the things that are out there that are working well for folks, how those might be applied or adapted to situations in Tennessee. And we can take Tennessee communities that are doing things really well and make sure that they know, others know what's working for folks, that they can try it. We take that knowledge and research base from the university and not just Tennessee, but other places where research-based things have been tried that are working in the ways that local government serves. And we talk to peers in our other states that are really helpful as we think about what works. But in Tennessee, we're a little bit unique in that we're the only state that has the kind of field staff that we have in CTAS and MTAS. We're really the envy of all our peers in that case because we have people on the ground that are in those communities and are close by and a short drive away at most for folks that need help. So when somebody needs something, we can come running, and anybody that works for us has to have had real life experience in the jobs that they're in. So they have the expertise that they've learned through their career already, plus the research base we have at the university, which makes that a strong resource for folks across the state.
Fabulous.
I would have a little different viewpoint on that, is that we do affect some public policy. The city will call and they'll say, okay, the state legislature changed the alcohol laws. We need to change our ordinances to match those laws. We will help write those ordinances to achieve that. So in that light, that is public policy. And there are several times in state code where we are actually tasked with providing a model policy. And we do that when requested at the state level to provide those model policies. Now, we'll do a lot of those anyway, but sometimes we are mandated to do that.
Let me ask you this, Margaret. How have you seen the advance in technology? What effect has it had on our cities?
Oh my goodness, what a question. It's immense. It's been tremendous. I've been in local government since '93, and the changes today from where we were. I remember sending my first fax at City Hall and thinking, wow, this is amazing. And just looking at where we are today.
You know, we've got listeners wondering what a fax really is. But you're exactly right. And I'm certainly not a techie, but when you look at what AI can do for our communities, it's just mind-boggling. And we had Greg Lowe on a few weeks ago on our podcast talking about AI, and he said something that made a lot of sense. He says what AI has done for our rural communities is help level the playing field, because even though they don't have the large staff, Now they have access to technology that can somewhat level that playing field.
Yes, I remember, it was an article from Popular Science or Popular Mechanics back in the 1960s, talking about technology and automation at that point with computers. Now, back then, those computers were full room-sized computers, but the article was saying, what's the American population going to do with all this free time? And that was the theory back when we had all of this automation. So it would be easy to say, what are we going to do with all this free time that AI is freeing us up to do other things? But I think it's just going to evolve, and we'll be busier than ever.
Great conversation with our guest today, Dr. Herb Byrd, Margaret Norris. And before we leave, Dr. Byrd, if we've got a listener out there, say he's in another state and wants to find out more about UTIPS, can you give them where they can go to find out information on how we work with cities and counties in Tennessee?
Absolutely. They can reach out and contact us through the website, which is ips.tennessee.edu, and we'd be happy. One of the things several of our folks are talking about here recently is, we got a good thing here in this state. We could be a profit for maybe some other folks thinking about implementing these kinds of support programs for local governments in their state. So we'd love to talk to anybody about the things that we do. We're proud of all of our staff and the ways that they serve, and we'd sure like to talk to them about it.
Well, we do have good things in this state, and we've had two of our great leaders with us today. And as always, if you've got a question or comment, we have an email address. It's RuralStrong@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Again, thanks for listening, and this is Joe Barker for Rural Strong. Thanks for joining us on Rural Strong. If you found this helpful, share it, and follow the show for more insights from rural leaders making a real difference. Until next time, stay rural strong.